Welcome to the Girls Marketing Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things marketing and the perfect backing track to your workday. Every week, we get up close and personal with marketers revolutionising the industry so you can learn from the best in the game. From the latest marketing trends to building a successful marketing career, no topic is off limits. At Girls in Marketing, we champion progress, inspire change, and encourage women to take the marketing world by storm. Check out our website and membership to learn more and get involved, as we'd love to welcome you to our inner circle. Right, let's dive into another episode together. Hello and welcome back to the Girls in Marketing podcast. Today we're going to be talking all about ways that you can boost your employability as a marketer. I know it's something that we talk about a lot as a community, as Girls in Marketing, on our channels and stuff like that. And for me, there are so many things that you can do to boost your employability as a marketer. There's maybe people out there right now listening that are looking for a job, so they're kind of like new into the industry, or they're in a job and they want to make that kind of next move in their career. So I thought it'd be really good to chat about that today. So I think the best place to start is to talk a little bit about what we've done like throughout our careers and things that we've done to help boost our employability, whether it's been something that's an active thing that we've done or whether it's just been something we've done and then it's subconsciously kind of enhanced our employability. Mm-hmm. So I'm putting it out to the group.
I think for me, like we've talked about a lot on the podcast before, and we've spoken to a lot of our followers, we've spoken to our members, our community. I don't think there's any one set path into a marketing career, and I think that's something that we all definitely agree on. I did not start out my career thinking I absolutely want to be in marketing, didn't really know what marketing was. Something that I did early in my career was just sort of like took opportunities as they came. I kind of lent into opportunities to try new things. Started out working in a few different industries in marketing, figuring out what I liked. I certainly know what I didn't particularly like. I worked out the types of people I didn't like, the types of marketing teams that didn't really work for me, like approaches to marketing and opinions on marketing that I definitely don't really agree with now. So I think I've learned a lot from just kind of taking opportunities. And I think that's something that you can maybe do a little bit more easily when you're early out in your career. Not for everybody, obviously, but I just think saying yes to things has been really like a positive thing that I've done throughout my career. I've definitely at various stages in my career as well, like taken the opportunity to invest in kind of professional development as well. So through doing courses, attending events, learning from people who I aspire to in the industry. I think that's super important, whether it's actually like attending an event or it's just kind of following them on LinkedIn, whether it's reaching out to them, whether it's going for a coffee with people. I think, kind of not being afraid to put yourself out there and go for what it is that you're interested in is definitely something that's really valuable, particularly in our industry. So I think just generally trying to, I don't know, be as adventurous and as much of a yes person as you feel comfortable being, because I think that those sorts of opportunities, I think even if they don't pan out well, because certainly some of the things that I've done, I look back and think wasn't the job for me, did not turn out exactly how I thought it would. I've always learned something really valuable from it. So I think taking any opportunity you can, and, I think some people listening will be like, well, that's all well and good, but I don't have any opportunities. And so obviously that's what we're talking about now. And I know that some of you guys have kind of created some of your own opportunities in certain ways.
Yeah, I know when I was at, I literally was asking myself this exact question of like, how do I become more employable? How can I make them connections and like get that network up? Also, increase my CV. I was asking myself that whilst I was in my first year at university. And one thing that I did, and again, prefacing this, that I was very privileged to do so and to be in the position to do so, not everyone is, but I looked on sites like Charity Job just to find like voluntary roles that I could apply for and kind of get my foot in the door that way. I think with these voluntary jobs, that was preferencing this, that was like 4 or 5 years ago now. So it was very much like a lot less people had social media then. So I think like it was a lot easier back then to get in and test out social media because brands were like, I don't know really what it is. Here you go, you can play with it. So I think a lot less brands are doing that now. So it is kind of harder to get in that way. But I think any type of volunteering, as long as you can, is kind of the best way that I found I got into it, purely from a perspective of volunteering. There's no kind of expectations to an extent. Obviously, it depends what brand you're working for. There's kind of no expectations with it. You're not being paid, so obviously the expectations are kind of on the floor. But then you can kind of choose an experiment with that and do kind of what you want, and then you can kind of take your learnings from that and put it on your CV, some real life work experience. Because I feel like as a student, and this is a whole different area of like your learning style and stuff, but I felt like as a student, I was learning theories, I was learning marketing theories, but I had nothing to apply it to. Like no matter how many case studies you do, like John Lewis, for example, like I feel like that's just a standard brand that you do case studies on at uni. Like you're just not emotionally attached to it. You're not actually seeing the results from that. Like there's so many, like you can do as many case studies as you want, but you're not actually getting that real life experience. So I think anything that you could do in terms of like volunteering or just kind of getting some sort of insight into the real world, whether it is from your own Instagram account or whether it is from your own TikTok account, I think just putting them theories to the test is really essential. And I think that's obviously why I eventually transitioned into a degree apprenticeship, because I found that was the best way. Obviously I got offered that position, but also I felt like that was the best way that I could learn, and having something to apply theory to and experiment with and play with is always going to be like the most effective way that I learn. So I think if you're in a position to do so, creating your own opportunity through like a blog, Instagram page, doing that is crucial, because I think that will make you more employable and it gives you something to put on your CV, but also to talk about with interviews and stuff and with employers.
Yeah. Did you know that 44% of full-time workers say they have a side hustle or passion project? Have you got that burning idea to start a passion project but no idea where to start? Don't worry, you're not alone. Hostinger is a sponsor of our podcast, and Hostinger's new AI website builder tool lets you start a website super easily with zero coding skills required. Just write 3 sentences to sum up what you're looking for, and Hostinger does the rest. Start your passion project with Hostinger by heading to hostinger.com/girlsinmarketing and use our exclusive code girlsinmarketing for 10% off your plan. You never know where your passion project might take you. Obviously, when you were talking about the volunteer and stuff, like we took on you, Girls Marketing took on you as a volunteer. And I think that was because at the time, like we didn't necessarily have the funds, being like a small, I mean, calling it a company at that point just wouldn't have even made sense. But, you know, we didn't have the funds necessarily to say like we'd pay you, for example. Obviously, you'd already done stuff with the charity. So then for me, I was like, you know, you seem like eager and all of this sort of thing. And then off the back of that, we obviously did like the short kind of internship. And then when we did have the funds, and obviously we did eventually, and it was like, oh yeah, we've got this opportunity. So I think even sometimes volunteering, it's a privileged position, but it could turn out to be something, you know, on the flip side. I mean, we even did that with you, Amy, as well. I feel like with both of you guys, but like that it can lead to other opportunities, whether it's a full-time position at the place that you volunteer at, or if it's something else in future. I feel like if you want to do that and you have the means to do so, and you're privileged enough to be able to say, yes, I will, I feel like that's still a good thing. But what I would say is make sure that it's something that you feel like closely aligned to, because I feel like the worst thing with volunteering is volunteering, which I have done for like companies or people that you don't necessarily like, or you don't really like get on with, or maybe you don't morally support. And then I think then you kind of feel like quite deflated because you're volunteering and you're not necessarily getting paid for it, but you're also not enjoying it either. So I think that's a great angle to go down. But like from my perspective, like my story, I actually started a blog like years and years ago. Absolutely love writing, and that kind of like enhanced my employability a little bit, because, and at the time I didn't do it for employability at all. I know we kind of like tell people to do that now, but that isn't something that was kind of, people wrote blogs, but it never really reflected work. And then I was like, one day figured out from like various people that you could like make money from blogs, which for me was just like mind blowing. It sounds stupid now, but it was just like, oh really? Okay. And then it was like, I worked with like an agency who said they had like some blogs from a client, and then it kind of like snowballed from there, and I got like other freelance opportunities, and then blogs turned into more content, turned into SEO, and I just kind of like continued to upscale. I think professional development was key for me. I think network was key as well. And I think that I was just kind of subconsciously building that employability in the background without even really thinking about it. And then it kind of led me to where I am now. And I think that that's something obviously we talk to people about. And marketing, whilst there are elements that are not too accessible, mostly it is quite an accessible industry. If you think about like laws and lawyers or like surgeons and doctors, like you've got to kind of like go to university and all of that. Whereas now with marketing, it's more accessible than ever. You can start a social media page or you can create a website, and before you know it, you could potentially be in the industry. So I think it's a really nice place to be. And we're quite privileged as people who are in marketing or want to be in marketing, that our industry is it's quite accessible really, which is nice as well.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. My first role was through a digital marketing apprenticeship, and I would say, like Kira said, that was gold for me because I could apply everything. I was also a one-person marketing team, so anyone out there, I am right there with you. Although it might not have felt like it at the time, that did so much for me because I got to dip my pot in everything. And like Amy said, I just said yes to anything. Yeah, I'll do that spreadsheet, I'll create that content. And I think I just gave myself quite a good foundation whilst I could apply it and learn from other people. In the role that I was in, I worked in an industry that was quite unique and the audience was quite unique. So we didn't use Instagram, TikTok, none of the popular content, I suppose I'll say, that a lot of us consume now. So I kind of thought, okay, if I want to go away and get a job in an industry that kind of aligns a little bit more with me, I need to go away and I need to learn. So I suppose you could call it upskilling. Also just, I didn't realise I was making myself more employable. And I went away and I just went onto TikTok and I started to learn how to edit videos, what the sounds were for, TikTok SEO, all the stuff like that. Just carried on like posting consistently. I set myself a few little challenges to post like every day. I was literally just posting like what I was doing, what I was eating in a day, the fact I was from Liverpool. And I think it was literally bang on a year later, me and you connected with each other. And well, here we are now. But I definitely did not realise I was doing anything for employability. And now I get so many marketers messaging me like, what should I do? How can I get, or people wanting to get into marketing as well, how should I do that? And I'm like, just post, like you've got to put yourself out there. I think whether it's in LinkedIn, like network, and we're quite lucky in Liverpool that there is a really good like marketing networking scene, and I definitely pushed myself to do that as well. I really struggled with self-confidence and I had to really force myself to do that, but I did it, and like I'm better for it now. But I think just putting yourself out there, saying yes, like trying to take all the opportunities that are there, just grasping hold of any, and because you never know what can happen with it. I mean, I didn't expect to get my job through TikTok, so there you go.
Yeah. I think that's the thing with it though, in terms of like making yourself more employable, like no matter what you do and what you choose to do, one, it takes time, and two, you have to be consistent with it, because you're not going to start an Instagram page and then that just is proof that you can start an Instagram page or you can do Instagram. Like you have to be consistent with it. You have to try and get some sort of results from it and try and enjoy it really. And I also think, it might not always be as explicit as like, okay, I'm going to start this so I can get a job here or so I can do this. But I think you just kind of establish that on the way, and through doing TikTok, you obviously found that you liked it and therefore obviously got the job here at Go to Marketing.
But not doing TikTok.
Not doing TikTok. So that's the thing, like I didn't know what my niche was either. But saying that, I did used to write a blog years and years ago. I dread to think please, no, I'm going to find it, I'm not going to. But I did used to do that as well. So I think if I went back, I would probably push that a bit more and carry that on.
Have you ever thought about starting your own business, but have always been too overwhelmed by the fear of not being protected legally? You're not alone. That's the reason why so many people don't get started. But thankfully, Kingsbridge, the sponsor of today's podcast episode, takes care of that side of things so you don't have to. With something as important as insurance, it's essential to get it right, and Kingsbridge does just that. If you're at the exciting stage of starting a new business, make sure you find out about the packages that Kingsbridge offers by visiting their website, kingsbridge.co.uk. I think it's just like making yourself more visible, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like that's the kind of key thing. From like an employer perspective, if you see a candidate that's applied for a job and they're not visible on anything, I mean, it's kind of like a negative thing. Like so many employers look at, people's social media, even if it's just like LinkedIn, for example, whatever. But I think like it's just making yourself more visible to showcase yourself a little bit, because I think from my perspective, like having hired before, it's nice to understand the person behind like the work that they're going to do. And I think the typical kind of like interviews and stuff like that don't really work as well for a lot of companies, because you obviously want to find someone who's going to be really great at the job, but going to also obviously be a great person as well. And sometimes, people can say things in interviews that they wouldn't really say in real life. And I think often these sorts of situations where you make yourself more visible, people will see you and say, that person would be a really good fit for this thing.
Yeah.
But what I would say off the back of talking about creating your own things, it doesn't also have to be like a marketing thing. Like if you want to create an Instagram or a TikTok or whatever, it doesn't have to be a marketing Instagram or a marketing TikTok. Because I speak to a lot of our members in the membership, and this kind of question comes up a lot, and people are like, so what can I actually do? Do I just start like a TikTok about marketing? And I'm like, well, if you like that, then yeah. But if not, if you are particularly into fitness, or you are into like animal rights, or you are into like anything, create something about that. You don't have to write about marketing specifically. You could, I'm not saying you're necessarily looking for a job in the animal rights industry or in the fitness industry, but it still showcases your skills, whether it's about marketing or not. So, if you are going to do these things, just make sure you're passionate about it, because again, that leads into the consistency point that you said, Kira. You're going to be more consistent about it because you like it and you enjoy it. And also it showcases your skills to employers as well.
And that can present its own opportunities as well. Like you never know, like a gym, if you're doing fitness, could reach out and be like, oh, we really like you, would you consider doing freelance? Like you genuinely just never know. Like you're always worth just putting yourself out there and doing it.
Yeah, an experiment. Yeah, I think there's also a lot of things you can choose specifically not to do to make yourself more employable as well, if that makes sense. So I found a stat that said recently that 79% of businesses have rejected at some point someone on a job based on their social media. And I think that's going to increase even more, because you've just got to make sure your social media is as clean as possible. And I think like obviously there's been like a lot of scandals, I guess, with like influencers and stuff, of like things coming out that they've said, especially in like in the early days of social media, when obviously people haven't realised the extent of how many people things reach and stuff. So I think it's how you're using social media and making sure that your social media footprint, your digital footprint, is as clean and as represents you as much as possible, I think, because I think a lot of the time candidates, hiring managers will check someone's social media. So I think it's just making sure that you've like got that positioning you as like as much as possible and to a better extent as possible.
Yeah, and making it an authentic representation of yourself as well, because again, I've seen people social media before, and then I've met up with them from an employability perspective, but also from just like a normal life perspective, and they're nothing like they are on social media. And I think that then that kind of like the cracks will start to show, if you do get a job off the back of your social media, for example, but then you're not kind of what you said you were or whatever, I think that could be a negative thing. So obviously you've got to kind of be careful, but you've got to make sure that it's an authentic representation of yourself, so that people know, okay, this is this person and this is who we're employing as well. Because I think it's a good thing, but obviously it could be a bad thing as well.
Yeah. I definitely think, I know we've spoken a lot about like getting into marketing and things like that, but like I think at any stage in your career, and again, I feel like it's quite cliche, like about making yourself feel uncomfortable for growth and stuff like that. But I do think it's true, throw your hat in the ring for things that you've not done before, volunteer. Not necessarily volunteer from like a working voluntarily perspective, but like even within your current job, volunteer to get involved in a project that maybe is outside of your normal remit and it's not necessarily something you do day to day. Put yourself on a a working group for a new project, get involved with something that you've not done before, outreach somebody in another part of the marketing team who does something you're interested in, ask to meet for a coffee, just, start that TikTok account, do things that maybe make you feel a little bit uncomfortable, but those are the things that genuinely usually will see results for you and you'll benefit off in the long run. And like I said earlier, even if they do kind of open your eyes to something you don't want to do, or they make you think, actually this isn't for me at all, it's still an important learning kind of outcome from that. So just keep pushing yourself and you'll get there. Wise words.
Yes.
And that's a wrap on another team episode. Before you forget, we'd love to make this a two-way conversation. Feel free to share your opinions on this episode with us on social media by tagging Girls in Marketing. If you did enjoy listening to our team chat about marketing, please follow and leave a review of the podcast so we can continue to grow and share more episodes like this one. Your support really does go a long way. We'll be back next week with another amazing episode, but until then, join in the conversation on social media. See you next week.